Alright. We are live, ladies and germs. And as you can see, I did get my hair cut. Because it's getting to the point where it is brutally fucking hot right now. But I tell you what, man. This year, watching these NASCAR races has been a fucking grind. And honestly, and I've already said this on a couple of occasions, this season is starting to rival 2015 as one of the worst I've ever watched. And my God, dude, the amount of dumb shit that had to take place for this race to be as bad as it was is mind-boggling. Like, how in the ever-loving fuck can you put on a race this bad? Like, I don't even know. Come on, cat, watch out. But we're going to be getting into all that and more. As much as I don't want to. And I was waiting on the race results and shit to be finalized, but I said, you know what? Fuck it. This goes far beyond that shit. Because this race was a fucking abomination to motorsports, truth be told. So let's get into it. This is the fuel. This video is sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend. Click on the link in the description and use the code PACKERMAN to save 10% on any order. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packerman, and welcome to this edition of The Fuel, where we are going to be talking about the fucking abomination that was the 2023 Enjoy Illinois 300 from Worldwide Technology Raceway, or Gateway, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Right now, I am just so aggravated, frustrated, masturbated, you know, bring in all the fucking adjectives and everything else. You know, let's just use all the fucking consonant sounds to describe what we're feeling right now. Because at this very moment, I could not give less of a fuck about NASCAR right now if I tried. What in the fuck did I just watch in that cup race? What in the fuck? You know, in the 4.5 years that I've had this review show, I have seen some absolute shit tier races. Some of the worst races imaginable, and I can't recall ever having just an absolute battle to get through it like I did tonight. This was supposed to be a 300-mile race, okay? 300-mile race at Gateway. Usually that takes, what, 2.5, 3 hours? The total runtime of this race was almost 6 hours long! Are you fucking serious? Of course, it all started out by having a red flag at the beginning for a fucking lightning delay. And from what I heard from the grandstands, there were a lot of people that were confused because it was cleared, sunny all around. It was, from what I heard, it was absolutely blisteringly hot out there, and people were just getting pissed waiting for this race to get back going, even though it only got started. because there was apparently storm systems that kept forming off to the west, and there were lightning strikes just inside the 8-mile radius. Now here's the thing. I'm not getting mad at NASCAR for the weather. The weather is out of their control. What I am getting pissed about, though, is the fact that they have this stupid-ass policy in place where if there's a lightning strike within 8 miles of the racetrack, then they have to halt the race for 30 minutes. First of all, 8 miles is too damn far out. I mean, nobody at the track even noticed that there was any fucking lightning. I mean, the radius needs to be around 5 miles. It honestly needs to be cut in half. And what also needs to be cut in half is the waiting time. 30 minutes is fucking ridiculous. Because there were a couple of times where we got near the end of that, 30-minute time period, and then another lightning strike happens. Oh, we gotta wait another 30 minutes. That's about the dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I realize that they put that in place because there was a race fan that got killed by a lightning strike at Pocono years ago, but you want to talk about fucking overkill with it. And it was no more evident than in this race. Like, this fucking race just felt cursed from the word go. Because on 4 fucking separate occasions in this race, we had brake rotor failures. Something that hasn't really been happening since the debut of this car. How in the fuck are we having brake rotor failures all of a sudden? Well, as was explained on the broadcast, because of the fact that this is an unusual track because it's an egg-shaped oval and it's only 1.25 miles. But the turns almost feel like Martinsville-esque in a way, where you are hard on the brakes going into each of the turns, but because the straightaways are so damn long, it effectively cools the brakes down and you get on the brakes hard again. What hurts these brakes, especially since these are steel brakes, they're still using the steel brakes, is heating up and then cooling off and then heating up and then cooling off. And eventually it gets to the point where you have these brake rotor failures, and there were some absolutely vicious hits that we saw from these brake rotor failures. So for some of these short tracks, it might be time to start investing in some carbon fiber brakes, because carbon fiber does a hell of a lot better absorbing heat, and you probably won't have this type of situation again. Just a thought. But then on top of that, the racing was just fucking boring as shit. The on-track product at Gateway was fucking garbage. I mean, honestly, the Cup Series as a whole has been garbage this year. In fact, I would say NASCAR as a whole has been garbage this year as far as the on-track product. Yesterday at Portland, notwithstanding, because that was actually a fucking banger race. But we've had 2 races at Gateway in the Cup Series, and the first one was not that good. Then we come back this year, and we have a case where both the truck race and the Cup race were some of the worst races of the entire year. Like, not only were they crash fests, but they were fucking boring as shit. I know some people are going to try to, come back with, well, at least the restarts were okay. Don't even give me that fucking shit, okay? The restarts are always going to be the restarts. They're always going to be, something that, gets the crowd excited because, the cars are all bunched back up. I don't give a shit about that. What I care about is what the racing looks like after the restart. Because that's what's most important, at least to me. And what I saw after the restart was dog shit. And then, As if that wasn't enough. And it looks like they finally updated stuff. Have we got the stats now? No, we do not. But it looks like they've updated the point standings at the very least. So there's that. But as if that wasn't enough, they were showing a replay, Fox was, or FS1 in this case, they were showing a replay of Carson Hocevar, who was in the 7 car this week, because Corey LaJoie was driving the 9 car with Chase Elliott being suspended. And the picture froze. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck? At first I thought that our cable box froze, because there was a case I think it was a couple weeks ago where that actually happened, which really sucked. But as it turned out, that wasn't the case. There was some rumor going around that it was like a power failure at the track, but as it turns out, it had nothing to do with the track. There was an AT&T fiber issue. They eventually got it somewhat resolved, but because of the fact that they didn't really have internet, they were having internet problems. Teams didn't have any of the usual data for their drivers. So, in addition to the brake rotor failures, they also had, fucking internet issues on top of that, which knocked the broadcast out for a couple minutes. So it's like, how is this going to get any fucking worse? And then stage 3 rolled around, and I tell you what, those last 40 laps, like, oh my god. Those last 40 laps were a mess. Because you had not one, but 2 red flags. The first one was to clean up Noah Gragson and his car, because he hit the wall when his brake rotor failed and left fluid on the track. And apparently there was actually somebody on Twitter who posted a picture of him actually having like a pretty nasty little gash on his chest from where part of Noah Gragson's brake rotor actually hit him. So he was joking around, and Noah Gragson actually responded saying, reach out to me, I hate that something that came off our car hit you. And the guy actually responded, hey, it's just a thing, go out there and raise hell. I mean, honestly, we need more fans like that, truth be told. But so that also happened. So in addition to that, we had a fan get injured, although he's taken it in stride. And then on top of that, we had not one but 2 crew members get injured this week. I forget who it was, but there was a crew member. I forget who it was right off the top of my head. I forget who he was driving for. It might have been Kyle Busch's crew. I can't remember, but apparently the air hose that goes to the pit gun somehow got whipped back into his face, and he actually had to get stitches in his mouth, which that looked kind of painful. But to his credit, he said, nope, I'm still gonna pit the car, which is pretty goddamn tough. And then during the race, one of Eric Jones's crew members got injured. Initially it was thought that he was run into by the 3 car, but as it turns out, he actually tangled with one of his other crew members, got tangled up, and I guess fell on the ground hard or something of that nature, and was injured that way. So he had to be taken out on a stretcher. And then apparently we had a case of right rear hooking, because according to Richard Childress, Austin Cindric apparently wanted to get some payback on Austin Dillon for whatever reason, so he right rear hooked him, which sent him straight up into Ricky Stenhouse, who was on the outside. That could have been racing gone bad, or maybe it was a right rear hook, an intentional right rear hook. I'm not sure. But this coming 1 week after we saw another one at, the one at Charlotte, and it's like, I swear, dude, the respect on the track is at an all-time low right now. Like, it is absolutely fucking ridiculous, truth be told. And I've said this on numerous occasions. Eventually, this fucking stupid shit is gonna get somebody killed. I don't want to see it happen, but I mean, if we continue down this path of dumb shit, sooner or later, someone's gonna lose their life over it. And it's just fucking nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. So, there was restart after restart, there was after restart. There was one restart where the 15 car of Greg Gaulding stalled at the exit of pit road, and that caused a yellow, and I'm thinking to myself, what in the fuck? Like, after about the second or third time, I was just ready for this race to be done. And then we had yet another fucking red flag because there was damage to the turn 1 wall that they had to fix. So there were 3 red flags during this race. And then we get going again. And then it looked like Kyle Busch had pulled away, got away from Kyle Larson, who, props to him and his team. They were dog shit at the beginning of this race. They got that thing fixed, and they somehow managed to eke out a top 5. But then we get one more caution for Bubba Wallace, also having a brake rotor failure. And it's like, oh goody. You just had to know with the way this race has gone, that it would go to overtime. Now it's like, a fucking course. Of course we would go to overtime, because why wouldn't we at this point? I mean, we've already done every other stupid fucking thing under the sun in this race. Why not add overtime to that list? Like, this shit is fucking frustrating. This shit is frustrating beyond all belief because, I mean, I've said it before. When NASCAR is at its best, no other racing series in the world can compare. But when it's at its worst, it becomes almost unbearable to watch. Because, I honestly don't know how else to say it. I mean, especially when you look at this year. This year has been absolute fucking dog shit in terms of the on-track product, and then you have all of the off-track issues that have been going on. Like, it's just not been a good season. And we're not even to the fucking halfway point yet. But anyways, we get to overtime. And Kyle Busch is able to get out in front once again, because he's been getting good restarts. And then Denny Hamlin manages to get up to second, and I'm just like, oh, God. It's like, and then the announcers were like, oh, he might, get a chance to dive bomb Kyle Busch into turn 3 to try to steal the win away. And I'm like, if Denny Hamlin somehow steals this race away after all the shit that he said and, acting like a fucking, douchebag this entire week, If he ends up winning this race, somehow stealing this race away from Kyle Busch, that's it. We're done. Us men do not belong watching this. I mean, it's already suspect as it is. Because Denny Hamlin's nothing but a fucking bitch. Yes, I said it. Because while he had the right to be upset with Chase Elliott for right rear hooking him, the way he went about it just rubs me the fucking wrong way. Because immediately in his post-race interview, he was calling for Chase Elliott's suspension. And while Chase Elliott needed to be suspended for that because you don't right rear hook somebody because of how dangerous that is, you as a competitor do not call for someone else's suspension. Okay? What Chase Elliott did was crossing the line. Denny Hamlin crossed the line by calling for his suspension. As a fellow competitor, you don't fucking do that shit. That is not your decision to make, and that is not your judgment to make. And then he kept going on and on and on. Went on his fucking podcast and it kept going on and on and on. You know, and then he got crazy booed. Mike Joy actually pointed this out, saying he got a rude reception and driver intros. Well, fucking duh! Like, why would the fans give a fucking dog shit about Denny Hamlin, considering how much of a fucking hypocrite he is? Not to mention that all he knows how to do is go on fucking social media and bitch all the fucking time. I know some people are like, I can't believe he's getting booed, even though he was the one that was hooked. Have you motherfuckers even been paying any attention? He's been getting booed for years. Long before what happened last week. Do you motherfuckers even pay any attention to what goes on anymore? I mean, seriously. I swear to God, the attention span of this fucking fan base is that of a fucking rodent. Jesus fucking Christ. But anyway, Kyle Busch still ended up winning the race, so thank God for that. Who would have thought at this time in 2023 I'd be saying thank God to a Kyle Busch win? And in fact, he's been getting cheered a lot more than booed as of late. I think the move to go to Richard Childress Racing has effectively, in wrestling terms, caused him to go babyface. And I think Denny Hamlin has become the biggest heel in NASCAR. When you start talking about who's the biggest villain and who's the biggest hero. Honestly, Kyle Busch may have turned into one of the biggest racing heroes of this season, as hard as it is for me to believe. My, how times have changed. I mean, I remember 2008, he was the biggest villain in NASCAR. And the fact that he won a lot of races just, I mean, it made the hatred just at a fever pitch. I mean, he had nuclear heat. Which, in a lot of ways, was a good thing because, you know, he was the biggest villain in NASCAR and people would actually, you know, pay money to see him not win a race. You know? Because he was just that fucking dominant back in 2008. I mean, didn't he win 10 races that year? And now we look to here in 2023. You know, he's been the villain for such a long time, and now all of a sudden, you know, he's one of the drivers that's getting the most cheers. Times have changed, my friends. It's astounding, to say the least. But other than that, I mean, it takes a lot for just everything to go wrong for a race all the ingredients have to be in play to get to the point where it was the racing as a whole that caused the race to become one of the worst of all time. It all happened in this race today. Like, it was like the racing gods broke out the entire fucking Rolodex of ways to make a race absolute dog shit here tonight. Like, it's absolutely unbelievable. Honestly, this may have been one of the worst races. Not only, I mean, let's be completely honest here. Not only was this the worst race of the entire year so far, this may have been one of the worst races of the decade so far. And honestly, looking at both cup races at this track, Gateway fucking sucks. It really does. I mean, you can't really do much with a 1.25 egg-shaped flat oval. I mean, honestly, the racing product at Gateway, I mean, it's some of the worst on the circuit. It's honestly on par with Dover in Texas. That's how bad I think the racing is at Gateway. I mean, the truck race and then the cup race, you know, this weekend just basically solidified that fact. And honestly, I don't think Gateway should be on the schedule. Obviously, it will continue to be because, you know, they've sold out the cup, both of their cup races, you know, last year and this year. So obviously, I will give props to the owners of the track. I mean, they know how to promote their speedway, but my God, the on-track product has been pretty fucking terrible in NASCAR this year, but this was the worst of the lot so far. And having all the other shit go down in this race, it didn't help whatsoever. So, my final rating for this race, it should be pretty fucking obvious. It gets a 0. I mean, you can't be called one of the worst races of the entire decade and not be expected to get any points. I'm sorry. Like, this was a fucking... wow, this was a trial by fire to get through, I'll tell you that much. I mean, when that second red flag came out for Noah Gregson's crash, I just fucking checked out from this race. I was ready to be done. I mean, when you have a fucking needless red flag for lightning, I mean, that pretty much set the tone for the day. Easily the worst race of 2023 and one of the worst races of this entire decade. The good news is, if there is any good news, there's only one direction to go from here, and that's up. So I certainly hope to God that Sonoma is better next week. Because it certainly seems like they've somewhat fixed the road course package for this year, because the race at Circuit of the Americas was actually pretty damn good. I mean, it was on par to be one of the best races of the year up until, you know, the finish. And how fucking wonky the finish was. Although, Sonoma is probably the weakest out of all the road courses on the circuit. Although, there are times that it does have some flashes of brilliance. So I am hoping to God that happens next week. But it doesn't look like they've updated the standings, and I'm not gonna fucking wait. Because the fact of the matter is, it doesn't fucking matter. Okay, now they have. Son of a bitch. But now I gotta put this shit in. Lovely. Alright. Alright, give me 1 second since I finally fucking did it. So I can still give you a complete fucking rundown of stats and shit. Alright. So, race stats. There were 10 overall lead changes, only 1 pure lead change the entire race. 9 caution flags, including 3 red flags, 1,778 green flag passes, and Kyle Busch led the most laps at 121. Yeah. And yeah, this race was trash. And I'm fucking done talking about it. God, I hope next week is better. But I'm done. I gotta get to bed because I gotta get up for work tomorrow. So, thank you very much for watching this edition of The Fuel. And until next time, this is the Packerman signing out. Fuck NASCAR. What's happening, ladies and germs? Thank you for watching tonight's video. If you're interested in sponsoring the channel, there is a link to my Patreon down in the description box below. Otherwise, hit like and subscribe if you want to continue watching great content like you saw today. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packerman signing out.